So anyway, so when we talk about family values and essentially what are your family values? Do you have family values? We have to look and see what's happening in the family.
And this is like a touchy subject for me because I think about our demographic, if you know what I mean. Pacific Islanders, we're typically known to be family oriented, if that makes sense. But I'm starting to see less of that as generations are passing by. And some of the culture that I used to learn, like even just the language of being a Fijian, I'm the only one that can really speak it in my family right now with my siblings. My siblings understand it. They can speak some words, but I'm probably more fluent than most. And I would interpret for them when we're in a different country. So even that in of itself is a representation of what's been passed down to the next, which is language, culture, background, traditions, all the things. But
Can I just add something to that, if you don't mind? So I wonder also if this lack of connectivity is because we spend so much of our lives involved with social media.
It definitely has a contribution to what we're experiencing, for
Yeah.
sure.
So I think about the interaction with people, just everyday people that shaped my life. Learning things. I may have shared with you guys. So my parents were deaf, right? I think I've shared that with you guys. I didn't? Okay. Yeah. So
I think you told me your mom was.
yeah, my mom was. My dad was severely hard of hearing, and because of the this is where the blessing comes in, right? With the dysfunctionality. So because of my mom was deaf, and my dad was absent a lot, I had to interpret for my mom everything. Wow. So you have this interaction with people and this communication with people because you're having to explain what he's saying. Yeah, you're going to be evicted next week. Or whatever it is, or you have to pick up the phone and call because the electricity's been turned off, right?
Wow.
So this interaction with all these different kinds of people, but I think it was more the norm, even outside of the fact that my parents were deaf, that people talk to other people. This rite of passage of, I was talking with somebody about that the other day, like turning 16 and getting the freedom to be in a car.
And nobody wants to drive now.
Yeah.
Kids just want to Uber.
Yeah.
They don't care about getting a license nowadays. Convenience is killing us.
Yeah, it comes to me. So that interaction with people, over the course of time shapes you as well. Wow. All these different people,
Just a second ago, you were mentioning the importance of community and how since we travel and we move, we lose a sense of community, right? In my case, I don't think my community was healthy. Like it was for my benefit to actually move, right? Yeah, but like I said, your family can be extended as far as, your community goes, as far as, who you're in church with, what school you go to, what neighborhood you live in. And those are the choices that we get to make as individuals,
I think it's like that. It's like a principle, right? Mm-hmm. It's like a vacuum where, you're not supposed to be in one place at all times, if that makes sense. It's almost like this vacuum of, hey, be adventurous. Go out there and explore and connect with diversity. There's no such thing as university without diversity because you're learning from so many different backgrounds. I was bringing up the whole tradition, the culture behind Fijian culture because I love that connection piece. Because you said something to me to prepare for this conversation. You said something along the lines of reward the behavior that we want repeated. Mm-hmm. Now, the interesting thing about passing on traditions and culture, and I'm not talking about staying there, I'm talking about like what's being passed down, the value system of the family nucleus, right? But it's got to be a reward, not a you have to do this. This is culture. This is tradition. There's a different approach to it. So no, this is a reward. This is something to embrace and enjoy and share with the people around you, if that makes sense. You want to reward the behavior you want repeated.
Oh, for sure. I mean, when you think about positive reinforcement with your kids, I don't think I've tried to encompass this thought with everybody. I don't want anyone to not understand or not feel as though that I love them. So I tell people all the time, love you on a phone call or whatever with my kids. Yeah. You can't tell them enough. So like even the people that I, the friends, love you, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you,
Yeah.
But I remember another thing too, like when you think about one of the things that in parenting because I traveled so much, I was seeing on the wall there's a Post-it note, a big one, but I would have little Post-it notes and I put it on my kids' mirror. Like sometimes there'd be a scripture, sometimes it'd be, hey, I love you, I'm going to be out, but I'm praying for you, love you so much, or I'm proud of you, you did this, you know. And so reinforcing, so the first thing that they saw when they would get up in the morning, his dad left him a note before he left, like tell him I loved him.
Man, I got chills when you said that.
That's
Oh man,
awesome.
I'm gonna start doing that.
I'm taking notes.
That's-
No Post-it note needed.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm putting that one down. Wow. We've got a couple more minutes here. Okay, this is a good one. Because when you have a mentor or you're being a mentee, there's this. I think there's a fear element of having someone overseeing you as a leader, if that makes sense. Accountability, yes. The fear of being told no. And in order for us to grow, we need to learn from our leaders. And when they say no, it's okay. Embrace that no. But I've written down here, or typed down here, being called out or called higher. And I want to dive into that a little bit because being a mentee under your leadership, and thank you so much for all that you do, because I've got endless of notes from what I've learned from you. But I love the fact that I feel like I'm being called out. Not in a negative sense. It's more of like, wait, I need to put a lot of attention to this because something's being called out right now. But I also have to remember that I'm being called higher in the process of being called out. Because I know there's a negative connotation of being called out. Because when you say you're being called out, you're like, oh, did I do something wrong? Yeah, of course. That's why we're here to learn and grow, is to embrace that being called out, but also know that you're being called higher in the process.
Yeah, Janelle has this saying, when you love someone, you lather, shave, lather, shave. And she does it to me, right? And it's like, I know what you're doing here. You're buttering me up because you want to tell me that I did something that you don't agree with, right? But it's super awesome, right? Like I'm glad that I got a wife that takes an approach that is loving, that is kind, that is good for me. And she definitely calls me higher, and both of you guys have been that for me. And it's changed my life, and it's something that I actually do with the folks that I mentor with my children, right? Being called higher. And as individuals and leaders ourselves, we have to be willing to take corrective criticism and not get offended when we've done something wrong, because what we're not is perfect people. We're not perfect at all, but progression is the goal, right? So as a leader, you got to be willing to take corrective criticism.
I think the majority in society today have the fear of failure. And I think that's something you and I know this. We've ran businesses. I'm sure you've felt that as well, as the fear of like, I just don't want to let this person down or let myself down or be called out because I have let people down. But it's one of those things that you just have to embrace. It's part of the journey.
Yeah, I think fear of failure can be a good thing. It can be a motivating factor, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have a boss or someone, your parents or other people that you don't want to let them down. I remember, and I won't go into the details of this, but going back to my college days, I did something very, very stupid. And this guy, the president that I told you about, Robert Spence, this guy I had tremendous respect for. The next day I was summoned into his office. It was the kind of thing that it was a prank. And I won't go into the details of it, but it was the kind of thing that you could get kicked out. Today, you probably would have been arrested for that. Yeah, because we live in a different society today. But this is 1979 probably. So I remember being called to his office, and I remember him sitting down, and he didn't yell at me. I was a football player. He expected better. He looked me in the eye and he goes, "Here's what he said. Ed, I'm very disappointed in you. I expected more of you." Wow. That cut me to the heart.
Deeper
right?
than a reprimand. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because I respected him. I had tremendous respect for him. I would never want to do anything that would cause embarrassment for him. And I had done something that did that, right? And so his words spoken just like that, not in anger or whatever, because I love the man, He was somebody that I wanted to be like. And when he said, "Ed, I expected more of you," that was like, I let you down. I'm going to do better, right?
I had chills when you said that, because I think where I come from, when you do something bad, you get a whooping. Yeah. That's my background. Yeah. to hear that I feel like that's definitely a good positive, redirection, if you will, because that's what I'm learning in the school that we're building is we don't even use the word discipline anymore, which, there's a biblical sense to that. We use the word redirection because of all the negative, evidence of what we've seen in history of how to teach a child, raise a child in a negative way rather than a positive affirmation way.
Yeah, I didn't even know you guys didn't use the word discipline. That's cool, right?
Yeah.
Because I apply the word discipline to self, right? Mm-hmm. You can't discipline anybody else, right? You can correct someone else, you can teach and educate or attempt to teach and educate somebody else, but you can't really discipline somebody else. And it takes me back to how I teach little B now. Hey, I believe in spankings, right?
Yeah.
At the appropriate age, at the
Yes.
appropriate time. But he's 11 now, and I probably haven't spanked him in a very, very long time. Like, I can't even tell you how long it's been. It's been years, 5, 6, 7 years, right? But now, when I tell him he's disappointed me or he did something wrong, you can see it in his eyes.
Yeah.
It works. Like, there's power in the word, right? Because it's coming from a place of sincere concern versus an immediate response. You did something wrong. You got to feel the pain. Wow. You can feel the pain emotionally. Son, I love you. You've disappointed me. You know better. There's power in the word when it comes to correction. So I feel you with that.
There was a guy, can I just add something to that? So I was meeting with a guy yesterday, having lunch, and he was talking about his 3-year-old and the challenge that he had and the friction between him and his wife on disciplining him, right? And I said, I think you're going down the right path because either you and your wife are going to discipline him or society's going to. And it's a much harder one when society does. Yeah.
It will show no sympathy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, I think, because on the vein of discipline, and this kind of also alludes to the mentorship too piece, because I think that's another reason why a lot of men are fearing to have a mentor over their lives because they've had abusive leaders in their past. So there's this pre-assumption notion on discipline. That's why we use the verbiage redirection, because people had a negative experience. And, words are powerful, and that triggers. It brings a trauma. So now we use redirection because it's a more of a positive approach to parenthood, raising a child. But I know in the biblical sense, discipline is a word that they use there, common theme. Yeah, and I love how you use on discipline on yourself. And Ed, I think that's what really draws me to you as a mentor is I know you're a disciplined man. I see it. It's represented in the way you act, your deeds. I can tell your thought life is healthy based on your deeds, if that makes sense. Yeah. I want you to share a story. One of your employees that a company we used to work for, where he was absolutely surprised by the gift that you shared with him.
Oh, yeah. So I'm really big on, again, affirming, the behavior that you want, rewarding the behavior that you want repeated, right? And oftentimes we get into habits on how we praise people, essentially, and it's really easy to text or to phone call or an email, we can send it out. But I learned a long time ago from another leader, the importance of writing a note because it's so rare today. Nobody writes anymore today, right? I mean, I remember, going back, again, I'm dating myself, y'all. I'll get my walker and walk out of here when we get done. But I remember how important it was because phone calls were so expensive when Pam and I were dating, and I lived in Colorado for one summer. And so how excited I was when I got a note or a letter from her, communicating because we couldn't afford to talk all the time on the phone. It's not there were no cell phones at the time either.
So you got a letter in the mail.
Yeah, a letter in the mail was like a big
With a
thing.
stamp.
Like everybody wrote letters, So anyway, so what I was encouraging these leaders in this organization, I said, do something different. It's gonna stand out. So I said, get some cards and write a note to somebody. When you see somebody doing something, write a note. So anyway, so there's a leader. And he's done really well there. He's still there, and I decided I was going to write him this note, and I just wrote him a note and say, "Man, I'm just so proud of you. You're doing a great job. I noticed these things that you're doing. That is awesome. You have tremendous potential, right?" And so he and I sent it to his house, and so he calls his boss and said, "I I want to tell you something. Ed made me cry. And he goes, what did he do? Like what did Ed do? Yeah, what did Ed do? He goes, no, you don't understand. He goes, my dad never even told me that.
Wow.
Wow. So it had an impact that there would be another man that cared for him enough that he would write it down and say, I see these things in you.
Yeah.
You are doing a great job.
Yeah.
I think you have tremendous potential.
Yeah.
So that had an impact. So that I've tried to do that, and I haven't done it, in the last year. I need to pick that back up again and start sending some notes out to people because it's impactful. Think about this. Before he gets home, the potential exists that this could happen. Before he gets home, his wife or significant other calls him and says, hey, you got this card, and it's from the company that you work for. And he might go, well, just open it up. And then she reads it. And these words of affirmation, and support. And how does that make him feel to know that there's somebody in his company that thinks so highly of him, right? So unbelievably important. Do we have time for another story?
I was gonna. Yeah, I know what story. Yeah, we got plenty of time.
Okay.
So please take your time.
All right. So
we got like another 15 minutes.
Okay, sweet. So, so that is so powerful, right? So I learned these words of affirmation from great leaders that I had the opportunity to serve under. But again, going back to Charlie Williams, first starting in my career, every year he and his wife Elise would take Pam and I out to the nicest restaurant in Memphis, Tennessee. It was called Folks Folly. It's a place we'd never ever been before. We couldn't afford to go there, like out of our leagues. It's the kind of place that you have to wear a jacket and tie at that time, right? At that time, jacket and tie. So, we'd never eaten there. So to go there, say, Charlie says, hey, are you guys available on this date? Elise and I want to take you out to dinner. Just want to get to know you better. And this was so powerful.
Take your time.
Because I learned something very valuable that night. So in the course of our dinner, we had a wonderful dinner. Food was great. Conversation was better. But I remember Charlie taking a moment to say, Pam, I want you to know how much I love working with Ed. He's doing a great job. He's got a tremendous future. Here, he's gonna do fantastic. And so, can you imagine how that made me feel? My boss is telling my wife that Ed is doing a great job. Ed has a tremendous future. Yeah. So, right? So what does that feed into? And so we were walking outside, and I remember Pam going, man, Charlie loves you. You're doing a great job. You're going places. And so a man's number one need is what? Respect.
Yeah.
What's the woman's number one need? Security.
Yep.
He addressed both those things in that course of that conversation over that evening, right? And so it was so powerful that I remember to this day, and I was in my 20s.
That's so powerful because it feed into what we as men expect or want from our wives, right? What do we want? We want submission, right? Yeah. We want them to submit, to come underneath who we are and what we're doing. Yeah, but do we have a mission, right? Are they submitting to the mission that we have on our lives? And for a leader to speak into who you are and what you're doing and what they foresee, that's the mission, right? Like that's accreditation to say, yes, I submit to who you are and where we're going because not only do I see it, but others see it.
Well, here's the other thing that happens when you do that. So when I learned that lesson, as I moved into leadership, I recognized the fact that I needed to go out. And so when I would travel, I would try to go to dinner with the person that was on my team and their spouse or their significant other, right? Because here's what happens when you do that. It changes the dynamic of the relationship, right? Because relationships come as a result of shared experiences, right? So you get to know that person, you get to know their significant other, you learn more about their family, all that stuff. And every time, this is what's transpired. When you see that person that you went to dinner with and their spouse in the workplace, it's a totally different conversation.
Yep.
Much more familiar, because they understand that you cared for them enough that you would go out on your own time just to get to know them, right? Get to know their family. So you can ask questions like, tell me what's going on with, your kids, with Jimmy, or what's going on with, I understand we talked about this the other night. And so you ask for updates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's powerful.
That's so
what is your take on your workplace being your second home? Seeing as how we spend, as adults, we spend as much time at work as we do at home. And then as a child or a student, if you're in school, you spend as much time at school as you do at home.
So what do you mean by that? Or what do you like it being
Like-
a second home? Like we spend too much time there, or you're saying that? What are you saying?
Like as an individual who has a career, right? Like how do you foster healthy relationships at work like you would look to foster healthy relationships at home? It's
Oh, man.
easy to say, well, I'm a father, I'm a husband, like I'm mandated, like God has given me responsibility for these things, so I must do them. But what about a person who is unhappy at work, unsatisfied with what they're doing? Like how do you cultivate the same loving, caring, helpful environment at your workplace that you would expect to cultivate at home?
You invite them into your life. You have to open up your arms and your heart for people at work. So that means you have to be intentional about, I'm going to go have coffee with this guy. I'm going to have lunch with him. I'm going to get to know him and develop trust so that I can try to help him if it's at all possible. One of the things I'm really big with, and I did it the last few years when I was at Medtronic, is I would try to have a team meeting here in Dallas. We have typically a couple of team meetings a year. Why would I do that? Because I would make sure, and this was close to Christmas time, was the last time that we did this before the pandemic hit. And so we were staying up at the Marriott at the Shops of Legacy. We were having our meetings there, in a couple of days meeting. But one night, I said, I'm going to have a party bus. I'm going to pick you all up. You're going to go to my house. We're going to have dinner at my house. And so, Pam and I planned it all out. It was kind of like you'd manage with if you're leading a Connect group or whatever. So, everybody that came in, you're making sure that you're engaged. You're serving everybody that's there. You're talking to all of them. There are probably like 20, 25 people there. Pam was there. And I made sure that, hey, can I get you something else to eat? Would you like some dessert? Make sure you're going around making sure that everyone feels warm and loved and welcome, right? And then the last thing that happened was when they left, Pam had made these little like gift bags that had some chocolates in it and some nuts and stuff like that, and gave everyone that on the way out. What do you think all those people thought about me? They had when they left, they were like,
You care.
yeah, for sure. Nobody does that anymore, right? Inviting people into your life, into your home, can be transformative in terms of leading teams, I believe, because I've seen it happen. I've had leaders that have done that for me. Like they invited me, to their home, or like I talked about Charlie Williams, let me go to stay in his lake house, or those kind of things. Inviting people into your life and caring for them is so critically important in the development of your team, because again, it builds trust because they know that you care about them. So the next time that you have a conversation, like if you're meeting with somebody outside of, you're going to lunch, having coffee or whatever, and the next time you have to have a hard conversation, it's going to be a different perspective because they know that you care about them.
Wow.
You have a statement. You say something along the lines of that.
Oh, people don't care what you know until they know you care.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
it's for sure. It's the absolute truth. I think that, that's one of the things that I think is a challenge in terms of our society today. When people are working remotely, it's harder to cultivate teams and that feeling of connectivity or connectedness.
Yeah, speaking of being isolated and working remotely, I thought for a second that, hey, we're probably going to be remote forever. But no, I think companies are seeing the power and the impact of being in the building, of creating culture
Same
and
thing with
fostering
churches.
relationships. So they're going back. Yeah, they're going back because of that.
Oh yeah, and it's hard because people have gotten used to working from home, right? And
Yep.
how to manage childcare and all that kind of stuff. But it's very, very difficult to develop culture when there's not personal interaction.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
You're in this season. Would you call yourself a retiree? What would you like? What season would you call this?
Oh, my best season.
Your best season. I love that. I love that
That's
approach.
awesome.
Officially I'm retired. I do some coaching and mentoring with some businesses and individuals, but it's my best season for sure.
Yeah, I'm
not
trying
saying
to
that-
figure out what to call it, because when I'm at that age where I don't have to work, if that makes sense, I'm trying to figure out a name or a label for that. And it's like, I'm not retired. Because retiree thinks, like, people think that you're not really working, but you are working.
When you're at an age where you don't need a job
Yeah.
and you can do your work, those are different. You know, your job is what you do. Your work is what you're purposed to do. Like what
Job
you
pays
want
the
to do.
bills, but
Job
when you do
pays the
your
bill,
work,
your work is fulfillment,
That's interesting.
life fulfillment.
I think
That's just my take on it.
No, I think it's pursuing your passion.
Passion project.
Yeah. And so, again, being able to do all the things that I get inspired by, meeting with guys like you, trying to, think about difficult questions, reading books, all these kind of things to expand your knowledge and understanding are the things I think are really important. So you can make a contribution, right?
Because I know you got more time for that. I think that's the biggest thing. You bought your time back through making sure you had investments so that you can live off your investments and assets. We talk a lot about that, especially with the business mentality. I feel like we're all in business. You're paying bills, so most adults are in business. So here's some of the popcorn questions I have for you, especially in this season. What do you love right now? Just one thing that you love right now.
People. I mean, again, I get tremendous amount of self-satisfaction and purpose by interacting with people and feeling like I can help them. I think when you boil it down to success in life, really, as a salesperson, that's what I did most of my career, is that you provide solutions. You try to identify a problem, you try to provide a solution. And I feel like that's kind of what I do now. I'm trying to help people based on what I've learned and what I've read, my life experiences, try to help them avoid the pitfalls that I made when I was
You're
younger.
helping us expand our mentality, because when I think retirees, everyone's trying to get away from people. They just want to be there with their spouse, or if their spouse is still around. But you know what I mean?
Golfing or fishing.
Yeah, just like, which is not a bad thing. But you're telling me, like, what gives you purpose is like interacting with more people in your passion project.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So but I had good role models, right? So when I talked about the pastor, that was my pastor's name was Frank Martin in Memphis, Tennessee, at the church that we were going to. When he became 62, he became a missionary. I mean, he was a pastor of a real successful church, and decided when I'm in my 60s, I'm going to Russia. He was a missionary in Russia and then in India. So following his life and being connected to him, he had a life that I wanted to emulate. He said, just because I'm getting older doesn't mean my impact can be diminished. No.
You were telling me about this guy that's in his 80s, like 85 or something, and still getting it in the gym, looking fit, living a great life.
Oh, I have a bunch of people like that. I mean, my brother-in-law inspires me. He's 82 and he's a really good pickleball player, but he'll play pickleball for 2 hours and then he'll go and run 4 miles. Yeah, he's a beast.
Man. He's for real.
Yeah, but I mean, there are people like that. So, to finish the story about Frank Martin is, he's in his 70s. And he's feeling in his heart that God's not done with me yet. I'm praying, and I believe that God wants me to go start a church in India, in Mumbai. And at the same time, he's diagnosed with bone cancer. Oh my gosh! But he just believes that he's this man of faith. I'm going to go anyway because God's going to heal me.
Wow!
So he goes and he's walking in Mumbai and searching for a place like where could we start this house church? Where should it be? And he gets even sicker, and they have to come and help him come back, and eventually he dies. But I want to be that person of faith that says, I don't care what my stage of life is, there's something for me to do. Yeah. I have a purpose, right? Yep. And so Coach Duran, he's 72, and I just talked to him the other day, and I was just catching up with him, and he was traveling and speaking and doing all these things. And he's coaching a football team, and he's got a documentary. I would encourage you to go on. I think it's on Netflix.
It's on Prime. I watched it. Yeah. So
did you watch it? Yeah.
I sent it to you a while back.
It's a series, right?
Yeah.
God Family Football.
Yeah.
And they just finished shooting the next season of that. Yeah. And he's always got stuff going on. He's 72. I mean, I don't know. I don't think the guy sleeps. He's just always going. Always going.
I love what you said, man. Because my story is, I woke up at 40 and was like, man, I'm just getting started. At 40, I'm just getting started.
Because I know there's some young people that they're thinking it's over and
I think 30
just
is
because of the
old.
season they're in.
Oh gosh, that is just such a lie. There is so much to do, so much opportunity, to be involved and have an impact, and so yeah, I'm living my
I
best life right
love
now.
that. That's one of the best answers I've heard. Okay, so the second question is, what do you hate? I know hate is a strong word. We've talked about this.
I hate waiting.
Same.
I hate waiting. Pam will say that if there's a restaurant and there's a line, we're not going to go there because Ed, you won't wait. And it's true. Like when I go back to Arkansas, we're fortunate enough, blessed to have a lake house there, and there's a gym that they have one pickleball court, right? And if there's a big long list of people that are waiting to play, I won't go down there because why do I want to wait, play a game like 15 minutes or whatever, 20 minutes, and then I'm going to wait 30 minutes to play again. It's like, no, I'm going to go do something.
You have a statement on time. You either spend it, what is it?
You either spend it, waste it, or invest it.
And you don't like wasting your time.
Yeah. No, I have other things that I want to do.
You're a man on a mission.
Yeah. No. What was interesting, it was like as I was preparing to retire and thinking about all of this and the journey into that, one of the things that I read that was really important is that you have to establish what your identity is going to be in retirement, which I think is really important because
forward thinking.
What's that?
Forward thinking.
Yeah, for sure. Because what happens is our identity. You're a dad, you're a husband, you're a business person. I have my own business, or I'm starting a business. I'm an entrepreneur, whatever it is. And then when you retire, what am I now?
Now what? Yeah.
And so thinking about that helped me to kind of define, like, okay, these are the things that I think are important to me. These are the things that I think God's placed in my heart. And so these are the things I'm going to be pursuing.
Interesting.
Love it.
And I know you got something to say.
No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I thought you were about to say something. Last question for you, and we still have 5 minutes, so don't rush this one. How are you recalibrating your life right now?
Oh gosh, that's another loaded question too. I would suggest this is that in retirement, I was fortunate in that when I made the decision to retire, I had some opportunity to do some things, right? So I started doing some consulting work. I had an opportunity to go to this local company and help them start their leadership development program, which was, that thing set me on the course for what I knew I was supposed to be doing. Because I just got such tremendous pleasure. I mean, I still meet with some of their leaders now. And so I just recognized that was something that God had placed within me and that I was just really, really passionate about. And it was a way for me to serve and help people. So, but the recalibration in my life has taken, I would suggest, this chapter of my life is something I had to be thoughtful about because I recognized, so I have freedom now, right?
Yeah.
But all this freedom is not necessarily a good thing. I started getting kind of sloppy about some stuff, to be honest with you. Yeah, so I don't have to go to bed. Like I would go to bed early because I would get up really early. I would go to bed at 9 o'clock because I would get up at 5.
Yeah.
Because I had to be there at a certain time because I wanted to make sure I was interacting with people. And at night I was reading every night. I hardly watched TV because I wanted to make sure that I had things, you can't give what you don't possess, right? So I wanted to feed myself so I could have something to be able to share with people. And I wanted to stimulate my thought processes. But when I retired, I got time. I'm gonna stay up to 12 o'clock, binge watch, whatever, and go to bed at midnight. I don't have to get up at 6. I go to, I get up when I want to get up. Well, what I started finding was I wasn't as productive because I got undisciplined, right? I do better if I have a regimen, even in retirement. Like I'm going to do these things. I'm going to get up at this time, so my alarm I still set my alarm and I get up. This morning was a little bit earlier, but you know what I'm saying? I find that even in that, in retirement, quote unquote, I do better if I'm disciplined.
Yeah. One thing that I share with teenagers that I don't think anybody acknowledges is that it's dangerous to be an adult. As a child, you have parents, or hopefully you have a guardian who's, giving you structure and order and setting rules and boundaries, right? But once you become 18, 19, 20, you exit the house, you can do whatever.
It's
You can do anything.
stewardship of your freedom.
You can do anything. Anything's not good to do, right?
Freedom comes with boundaries.
Freedom comes with a cost.
Oh,
the
for
cost
sure.
of self-discipline, right? It's very dangerous being an adult because you have to self-discipline, right? You have to prioritize your time. You have to prioritize your thoughts, your intentions, your relationships, your finances, of course. So yeah, so thank you for sharing that even in retirement. You know,
Right.
you can go off the rails a little bit if you don't, find your counter.
Because I know there's preconceived notions of retiring, right? Once I'm done here, like people don't live in the moment in that point where they're thinking like there's this I don't know, this paradise that they're going to achieve at the end of their work, career, lifestyle, if you will. Because I think what we're trying to debunk here is that you're still working. You're just working on a different project. And most of the time you're not working on someone else's project because, typically when you work for someone else, you're helping to establish a dream that was already established. But when you retire,
You're moving somebody else's idea forward.
and now there's an opportunity when you retire, quote unquote, is now it's time to work on your dream to push forward what impact you want to leave on this earth. Go ahead.
How could you do both at the same time?
That
You have a job.
that's a tension that most people
You have
feel.
a job, but yet you have a desire and a passion inside of you, a dream of something you want to feel fulfilled in doing.
And that's what we're trying to cultivate here is that when you are in a different company, it's not just a job, it's a career. And the word car is in that word career.
going somewhere.
It's a vehicle towards a destination. So you're not there to be employed, quote unquote, you're there being deployed. You're on a mission. You're there to learn, soak in as much as you can so that you can establish something of relevancy or that's productive, if you will. I'll end with this. When I was leading your son many years ago, sounds like forever ago, but it wasn't that far ago, I was asking myself, okay, this young man he's different. He was built different. And I remember we were sitting amongst other youth students. We were doing an internship with some of our youth students. And they were going around talking about who was their greatest influence, who really empowered them to do great things. These little young men and women. And then it came to your son. And he said your name. And when he said that, and it wasn't the first time I heard that. It was always a reoccurrence.
Yeah.
I was like, man, who is this guy? And then when we connected for the first time at this other company, you mentioned that Conley mentioned me on his journey as a leader. And I was like, so crazy how, like, the full circle of this, of we're all just trying to bring something of value to the world, if you will. For us, it's for the next gen, right? For the people that are behind us that we really want to empower them so that their floor is our ceiling, essentially. But to get a compliment like that from your son, I felt the weight of that. And it didn't happen one time. It happened several times on that period of time that I was with him. So I think the greatest compliment to ever hear is from your family.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Was there anything you want to end with that?
No, the only thing, the thing that makes you proud as a father is to see your children embracing the things that are important to you, your family values, and as they establish their own families. Like when I walk into my daughter's house and I see that she's got scriptures posted on her refrigerator, and I see her stop and taking time to pray with her kids, or the fact that they're giving. Like there was an opportunity to give some money to a woman that's having to take in her grandchild at like 60 years of age and help raise her grandchild, and so to see your kids give, to that, it just makes you proud, that you did something right.
It's awesome.
Yeah.